Now I'm going to answer a question that you may not have ever asked yourself because running a sales meeting stinks. I know it. I've done it for years. It stinks. It's a pain in the butt. You have to do it every week, every other week, but you have to do it. Why does a major leaguer practice grounders every spring? Why does Jordan Spieth practice putting every single day for hours? They know how to do it. They're the best in the world, but they still have to focus on fundamentals. And you owe it to your salesperson to make them practice on their fundamentals. If you're selling yourself, it might help you too. And it doesn't matter how many salespeople you have. You have one, you need sales meetings. You just do. A good sales meeting, though, doesn't have to stink. It just stinks to have to plan them. That's all there is to it. It stinks to have to plan them, but you can make them fun, educational, motivational, and even part of the whole company's culture if you do it right. I'm gonna take you through 3 ingredients to a great sales meeting. I'm gonna give you 1 warning and then a tip. But after that, you're gonna have what you need to go through and manage your salespeople in productive, educational sales meetings. The first ingredient to a sales meeting is consistency. You have to set it up so that they're going to be there. I had mine at 7 in the morning. There's no prospect in the world that wants to meet you at 7 in the morning. They might have trouble getting there. If that's true and that's a deal breaker, make it some other time. Make it at a time that they'll always be available and you'll always be available. If you're out of town, push it back a week. Don't cancel it. Double dip in a week. Whatever your schedule is, keep to it. Make it mandatory because it's that important. The second ingredient is having a very, very, very clear purpose. Do not mix a sales meeting with other training. Don't bring in the HR people. Don't bring in the insurance person to do the new plan. A sales meeting is for salespeople and potentially the whole company to learn how to communicate with customers better and grow your business. They should be educational and they should be motivational. That is the purpose of a sales meeting. You want to reinforce the professionalism of sales. We've talked about this in this program. Sales is a vital part of the world. No one likes to buy, no one likes to be sold, but we all have to buy. They have to buy it from somebody. It might as well be from you. Let this motivational professionalism aspect help your rep overcome the rejection and the objections that they get in their day-to-day life. They might even be embarrassed to tell their family and friends that they're a salesperson. That's a problem that you have that you need to solve. Learn how to celebrate the grind, the fight, the battle that goes on. Celebrate the little tiny wins. Celebrate the fact that they are now making 50 phone calls maybe a week when it used to be 25. Maybe it's 50 a day, whatever it is. Measure so you can celebrate and make them feel good and appreciated about what they're doing. That kind of data and that kind of feeling comes from this interaction that's going to be made possible by a good sales meeting infrastructure. The third point is having a written agenda, and I'm going to expand on this point and give you some ideas of what to put in the agenda. My most professional sales management experience came within an organization that had what I consider the greatest tradition in sales meetings history. And that was every meeting we started out with a good thing. So we'd go around the table, everybody had a good thing. Now we did a professional one and a personal one because it was that kind of a company, that kind of culture. If it's just you and your rep, just tell them, you have to come in with a good thing. What is it? We'd kind of joke, we'd have to come up with it on the spot, but frankly, it was a great way to just sort of know everybody, to get together and share sort of a common community feel. It was also a great way to welcome in new members. They kind of got the feel of people. This is a fairly large group, but depending on how big your company is and who you invite, it might be a great thing for you to try. But your agenda needs to be written, needs to be planned, needs to be communicated beforehand, and you may want to have a little bit of homework in addition to a good thing. Have them bring in something. So this week we're going to deal with objections. Bring in your biggest objection, the objection you can't handle the most often, the one that drives you crazy. That's your homework. So allot 15 minutes for objection handling, but make them aware of it. I can tell you, I've had reps that the minute I put something on the agenda, they put an hour, 2 hours of their own time into preparing for it because they didn't want to look foolish in front of the rest of the group. So just putting on the agenda accomplished the goal, frankly. What we did in the meeting didn't even really matter to that particular person. Just like kids in school or little kids out of practice, you don't want to have an agenda that has one thing on it and you last 15 minutes. Break it up into different segments. Break it up into a series. do some in class and let them take some home. One of the things that I love to do is go over a book, read a book together, a sales book. You may have some people on your team that already read them and they'll give you some recommendations, but assign some as a group and you read it. It's helpful to provide part of the homework assignment is have them present a chapter. So you pick one book, it might last you 2 months. You can go through a 200-page book, a couple of chapters every week, and it's great material. We all know, have you ever read a sales book that you didn't learn anything from? I doubt it. If they're out there, they're good. Trust me, I've read them all. So assigning them, going over them as a group is a wonderful experience. Make it a point to find articles within your daily sphere of influence. Find sales management folks on the internet, follow them on Twitter. They'll come up with articles all the time. Bring it in, read it, talk about it. Make it interactive. That's a 15-minute segment. You have your good thing. You can fill up 45 minutes, 50 minutes easy. I wouldn't go over an hour, but you can fill up 45 minutes like that. Put in some product training, some new pricing, whatever it is that they need to know, and you have a great sales meeting. I'll give you one tip, and it's kind of an investment on your part because it takes some time, but I'm not even sure I can talk about this without getting emotional, but I would recommend movies as part of your sales management training, and there's one in particular that you haven't seen, you have to see. It's called Door to Door. It's William H. Macy. He's playing a man who had cerebral palsy, walked 8 to 10 miles as a door-to-door salesperson until he was 69 years old. If you can't find motivation in that movie, you're brain dead and emotionally dead inside. It's fantastic. It's worth the 2 hours. There's plenty of them out there like that. That one's the best. But there, John Wooden movies. There's all sorts of motivational stuff. And salespeople have a tough job. It's your job to help them get through it. And Door to Door with William H. Macy cannot be beaten. Here's my warning. If you're one of the people that have learned how to be a sales manager by watching movies where it's frequently the car dealership and they have the list on the wall and the guys below the red line are the ones that are about to get fired and that's your idea of a sales meeting, one, you've probably not enjoyed a lot of this program in the first place because that's not really my style. But I'm going to tell you that doing that in a sales meeting is not educational and it's hardly motivational. It might motivate them to not be below the red line, but it's probably motivating them to go find another job. Unless they're the top 2, maybe 1. Those people are happy with your list. But if you have one person, a sales meeting about training is not the place where you rip them a new one about their performance. That's a different place, that's a different setting, that's a different agenda. It's not every week, I hope. If you're doing that every week, you have a bigger problem than I'm going to solve. But if you feel the need to do that, please do it someplace separate. Make your sales meeting about enrichment, fulfillment, improvement. And if you follow my advice and bring in other people who are going to be motivated by this subject matter, they don't want to see that, and it's going to cause nothing but conflict between you and your rep. The rest of your company can be motivated, but they will not be motivated by that, I can promise you. My last little bit here is maybe a little bit of advice, a personal preference. It's okay for you to not know everything. I've mentioned that before. But if you're supposed to be the sales manager, the one thing you're supposed to know is how to sell. And what I would encourage you to do is be active in the process. So let them come at you. Let them see you be in their position. So I mentioned before, have them bring in a tough objection. You try to handle it. It's okay if you don't know how to do it. If you're not prepared, you're especially not going to handle it very well. It's okay to stumble. Be vulnerable. Let them know that you're in this with them and find a solution together. Frankly, if you knew how to do it exactly, they probably would feel even worse about not being able to handle it. So show some vulnerability, fail a little bit, it's okay. It's a great learning experience for everybody, and you'll get them to be more engaged in the process. I've done this for years and years. I'm better than average, maybe even really good, I'm not sure, but sometimes I even made mistakes on purpose, just to show that it was hard. It works, trust me. So I started by saying that sales meetings stink and clarified a little bit that planning sales meetings stink. Hopefully you've seen that there's a way to do this that kind of takes the grind out of it for yourself. If you set up a book that you really think is going to do well, you have 2 months covered for 15 minutes. It's not as hard as it seems. It's really just committing to it and buying into it and leading it. If you're not comfortable in front of people, if you're not comfortable leading meetings and leading little groups, you might struggle a little bit, but just start doing it. It will work. Your salespeople will appreciate it. The rest of your company may really get something out of it. They are part of the sales process. So if they know what's going on, if they know how to do things a little bit better in customer service or wherever they're at, everybody wins. There's nobody that can suffer from more motivation. That's not a problem you're going to have. So if you're running a good meeting, on time and prepared, it's going to work out for you, I promise.